Sports, a nation's pastime. Across America, athletics, sports, and diets are an incredibly popular way for people to stay healthy and fit. But what drives us to become athletes? Why do we put our bodies on the line just for that little extra edge? Why are people so obsessed nowadays with pop diets and whatnot? And what even is keto? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about today. As an athlete myself, I have a lot of first-hand experience in the mental and physical changes that an athlete goes through across their lives. First, let's focus on body image and exercise. When you typically think of an athlete, you think of someone who's muscly, peak of human existence, the strongest man alive, just all rippling muscles. But that's not how every body should be, especially with every sport out there in existence. Across the wide variety of sports, different athletics require different uses of different muscle groups. So there shouldn't be a single body standard or body image that everyone should strive for. Take, for instance, a swimmer and a linebacker. One is very thin, very slender, very little fat on their body. The other one is large, tall, stocky, the more weight the better. Both in their own regards are athletes, both top of their field, and yet both very different body shapes. Then take an average person. If that average person were to look like a linebacker, they would be considered unhealthy by our typical standards. Is that because the person isn't an athlete, but they still look like a linebacker? Nowadays, we typically glorify and praise all these unrealistic body standards we see throughout media every day. But that hasn't always been the case across human history, actually. Take a look at some of these old advertisements for women. Instead of the rail-thin body image standards we see in the media today, they were promoted to be plumper, more full, having more weight on their bodies. It's in stark contrast to what we see today, actually, and we've essentially shifted to almost the entire other side of the spectrum. In the past, having a larger body signified wealth, prosperity, and abundance of food so you wouldn't have to starve throughout the winter. But as we come into the modern era, food is no longer as scarce. So instead, diet and exercise culture arose to take its place. Now people have options for food, and they can exercise for leisure instead of for work. And being able to do that shows discipline over one's body, power, strength of oneself and will. And now diet and exercise culture has essentially taken over how we view ourselves and how we think we should look. That we're only healthy if we have muscles and a strict diet. But that's not always true. Actually, it's rarely ever true. Exercise typically affects the body through improving the heart, not the fat of a person. Yes, there is a correlation between being overweight and being unhealthy, but it's hardly ever causation. Take a look at strongman competitors. I don't see a single ab anywhere here between these men, and yet they can absolutely snap me in half, I'm sure. Next, let's take a look at diet culture and how the diet industry essentially preys on the downfall of vulnerable individuals. I know what I said just sounds dramatic, but I assure you it's completely true. Think of how many pop diets are going around nowadays. Keto, Godox, Paleo, intermittent fasting, pescatarian, flexitarian, Mexitarian, Atkins, Dukan, HGC. There are so many out there that two of the diets I just listed aren't real, and you probably don't know which ones. How messed up is that? Think about it. Diet culture is so pervasive in our society that diets pop up all the time just so people can lose weight quickly, which more often than not is incredibly dangerous. With extreme dieting programs, people tend to lose weight very quickly, but this also causes the body to go into starvation mode, even when they come off the diet. Starvation mode is essentially when the body, instead of processing proteins and nutrients normally, stores them within the fat cells in the body, because it doesn't know when it'll get a good meal next and it needs to conserve all the energy, which leads the person to gain more weight than they typically lost. Thus is the circle of dieting. The media pushes these unrealistic body standards you see every day, claiming that you, the consumer, can also look like them. So you hop on a diet, lose a few pounds, lose some weight over the course of a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, hop off the diet, and you start gaining the weight back. you see yourself gaining the weight back, and you decide that the old diet doesn't work, so you try this new one that just popped up. Alternatively, you stick with the diet and you keep losing and losing weight, but the media keeps pushing you to get that figure that you've always wanted, but you don't think you ever achieve it. Now you have an eating disorder, body dysmorphia, and a whole slew of possible mental health issues, believing that you may never look like the celebrity on television. And many of these issues compound with one another, leading to malnutrition and, in some extreme cases, death. Add the problematic dieting to exercise, especially with athletes, and the product is a broken individual that has a bad relationship with food. Some sports, like wrestling, and in my case rowing, require people to dramatically and drastically drop weight quickly, making people as young as high school students partake in problematic and drastic diets. Should this be something we promote, and in some cases even praise? I think not. As a product of this exact way of thinking for nearly a decade, I can assure you that it doesn't work, and it's no way to live. We need to address this problem at the source, and stop promoting these fictitious body standards we see in the media almost every day. You will never look like Kim Kardashian, and you will probably never be as jacked as Chris Hemsworth, and that's okay. It's more important to have a healthy diet and a consistent exercise schedule than it is to dramatically cut weight, or to compare yourself to literal millionaires who have so many more resources at their disposal. I hope this video can open the discussion for a lot of people and give a new way of thinking to some others, because I certainly could have used this video a while ago. Thanks for watching.